More new Space Marines?
Spiky Bits.
Welcome back, Hobby Maniacs. I'm Rob Bear from SpikyBits.com, and in this video, we're going to unbox and build the new Strike Force Agastus, I guess is how you say it. New Space Marines. Hey, heading into 10th edition, and they got this. It's actually a really small, super thin box here, and well, needless to say, I don't know, at $200, I could see where some people might have an opinion about that. But, you know, the value is there as far as, you know, what you would normally pay for stuff like this. And I think we had an article on it where you actually get pretty decent value because each of these squads here is going to be... each of these is probably going to be $65 because you get two of them in there, just like the heavy intercessors. And then this guy right here, I think, is now $75. So, you know, and then you got a lieutenant, which is $40 now, I believe. So there is, you know, some savings to be had over buying them separately whenever they do come out. But, you know, sometimes it's better just to wait, I suppose. All of these are coming with the new little sticker on it, I've noticed. The last couple of box sets have all had this little sticker. While they're not shrink wrapped, sometimes they just have these stickers, and I don't know what's cheaper, but obviously we know what's better for GW right now. So once you get this open, you're gonna have the standard loadout of sprues and everything in here, and then when you get to the middle, there'll be the little card to protect the books and the things underneath it. Looks like it's the same on each side. And then you've got the base and the rules and all the instructions right here as well for all of this. So, and a couple transfer sheets there. So we'll dig into this in a minute. We've posted up all these rules already. They're online, so you can check all those out. And of course, you know, all of this is just about to change now with 10th edition anyway, so we won't spend a lot of time on that. Diving right into the instructions here, you can see all the sprues that comes in here. So the lieutenant's going to be 2 sprues. The heavy intercessors are 2 sprues. The Desolators are 2 sprues too, which you'll have 2 of those, but only 1 of these. So the sets are 2 sprues there. Lieutenant himself looks to go together pretty standard, just like we've seen in the past with the front greave. Then he's got 2 different types of tabards right there, which is kind of interesting. And then all of the weapons, so you can even accessorize this bolt rifle however you want right there, which is kind of cool to see. And then they give you the 2 shoulder pads, head, there's a helmeted head and a regular head, as well as the backpack. And you can kind of have them all different poses. You could have them looking this way, you can have them looking that way. I think there's a little Chaos Marine helmet on there, so that would be really neat to see. And of course, all of these you can magnetize, and we'll show you how to do that as well, because swapping out arms on those little flat areas right there are super easy. Then getting into the heavy intercessors, we're not really going to cover that because, well, they've been out for a long time. I think since Pariah Nexus, so not much to say about that we haven't seen. And then getting into the Brutalis Dreadnought, I would imagine that this is very similar to the Redemptor Dreadnought as far as a build, although this already looks different here. But this all looks similar, just squashing the little wires together, and then you build this and you insert that into there. And I really like where they have the yellow, so you can see where you're supposed to have all the surfaces meet and glue. And then you've got the front chest guns right here that will rotate up and down, so I'm sure that they lock in there. We'll see if we can customize those and make them interchangeable. And then left and right mounts for the arms, the bottom that flips up with the little step stool. And then you jump into over here, you've got 2 different fronts. I forget if the Redemptor came with 2 different fronts. I have mine right here actually. It came with this. So it looks like they redid it just a little bit, but it did come with, I guess, only 1, because I only have 1 in there. And then you've got the anti-aircraft gun. This seems to be more enlarged from last time, what we saw with the, because here's the Redemptor right here, that we have the older one, and that one is quite smaller. So they probably redid that piece in there, but I imagine the other stuff they kind of left the same because it seems very similar. Then getting into the legs look similar because you had these little circle peg things And you want to be really careful here not to glue any of the areas. If you've never attempted this before, you want to be very careful with that, because those areas are, you got to rotate that to lock those little pistons into those little kind of slats or holes right there. So just be careful with that. This front armor looks new. I'm not sure if you want to glue down your armor, because if you're going to pick up any optional resin upgrades that might come out or 3D prints, you're probably going to want to keep a lot of your armor off, which we're going to do, and just kind of blue tack it on, kind of like you saw in our actual Redemptor here. He's kind of our stunt dummy. Stunt double, stunt dummy, whatever you want to call them. And then the legs, or the feet, one's flat, one's kind of tapered. So, and I think if it had a little slot in there, so it'll pivot like either like this or like this, depending on which side you put that forward leg on. So like if you're not smashing down here, you would pivot this way over here. But if you're here, you would pivot this way. So just kind of keep that in mind, that those C65s are going to be... Oh, I see what they say. So C65 is the one with the pivot, and C64 is the flat one, from what it looks like. Either way, just pay attention to that. There's one with just one hole and one with like kind of a slot or two holes, and that's going to go on the outside. That's going to be the stepping leg. And you can't just make them flat down, because they actually are exactly like this, unfortunately. Looks like some new armor plates and things on here. Some caps, it looks like, which is kind of interesting. I don't actually... Not sure if I put those. Oh yeah, I did put those on mine. I didn't even notice that till that was on here. Okay, so there's some caps and some extra armor plates that we haven't seen before, and even some front armor plates, because yeah, that doesn't have a front armor plate on it. Interesting. Okay, so there's actually a lot more, well, a decent amount more parts on here than the last one. And then it looks like the arms are completely re-engineered. There's a whole bunch of areas here that says don't glue, so I'm sure you can get some movement on it all. Yeah, like this flips up, so the arms, so you're going to be able to kind of pull the arms, you know, like this, or up and down from what it looks like right here. And then there's two different types of wrist weapons. I wouldn't worry about those too much. I mean, a wrist weapon is a wrist weapon. This one looks cooler to me. But this one looks easier to build, so I don't know which one will actually do. And then you've got talons, as well as stubby sausage fingers right here. Nobody likes a Dreadnought with stubby sausage fingers, so I think everybody should build theirs with talons. Just my personal opinion right there. And then once you get all of that together, it looks like it slots in to the arm sockets. It also says don't glue, so it's got that push and kind of turn locking key system. And yeah, so that's side. So those are sideways right there, and then okay. So this looks. Oh, maybe there's some different. I don't know what the difference is there. I guess just the different posing. They're the same bits. There is an extra bits. I've already looked at the sprues. Okay, so then just been gonna put them down there and make them all look like action posy. There is a slot, so you can turn them left or right depending on which way you go with the feet. You might want them going the other way, like you see right here. And then jumping into the Desolation Squad, this one's really interesting because it looks like the Sergeant is going to have the same weapon all the way through. But then, of course, these guys right here, you can either have the 4 stack of missiles or the little flip up, Hunter Killer style, I guess. And then they can be carrying ammo, the Lieutenant can, or just have a little pistol right there. So they've got the ammo feeds that go onto the back. It looks like the backpacks are all standard. Shoulder pads are going to go onto the arms. Oh, let's take a look at the legs. How complicated are the legs? So the legs are one piece, so that's cool to see. They don't have those greaves on the front because there's already a lot of pieces here. And what I was worried about was the arms not matching up. Now, obviously, this is a bad example here. Oh, I guess he can have both rocket launchers. Or all 3 rocket launchers. Weird. Okay. That'd be interesting to see. It looks like this attaches differently. Like there's 2 points of attachment here, and the other ones have a rail. So it's going to be really hard to magnetize these from what I'm seeing. And then the build, again, the legs for the regular guys, the legs are going to have the greaves already on front, which is cool. You definitely want to pay attention to these parts here because this one is a specific build. So back 41 is going to go on front 44, which then is going to want and expect D42 and D43 legs to stand correctly. from the look of it, it looks like these arms match up with the flat areas as long as you make them flat to flat. Shouldn't be too hard. And then there's the ammo feed. The ammo feed does have a front and a back section right there, but it looks like it connects pretty flush. And then you've got the choice of rocket launchers here that goes on the rail system. And then you got to put the little, did they have that step in here? Yeah, okay. So the little, I guess, grenade launcher, drum fed or drum grenade launcher, which I guess that was technically belt fed from the description. That part is the belt. I don't get this weapon. I mean, it looks okay. I don't get the hate, but I mean, I guess the little grenade bomblets go into there, into the drum, and then feed into the... But that just seems silly to me, like, as, you know, from a weapon standpoint, it should just go in and then go into a single barrel instead of like a drum. I don't know. I don't get it. I'm sure somebody will come out with a conversion, which will be cool to see, but unfortunately, I think the bits are attached. Yeah, unfortunately, the bits are attached there, so you'd have to cut it square if you wanted to convert it a little differently. But whatever. Perhaps we will see just a completely different arm that makes sense, maybe without the ammo feeds. I don't know. There is different little sensor arrays that go on the backpacks that are supposed to match up to the different missiles. Again, I feel like that's all optional. That's just like nitpicky. Just put whatever one on there looks cool, like rule of cool, man. I don't think it matters. And some purity seals and bolt pistol holsters and things. All right, well, let's take a look at the sprues. So, like I said, the only sprue we're going to take a look at, well, we're not going to take a look at the heavy intercessor. So here's the Desolator sprue. Now this will make 5, and there's 2 of these exact sprues in the kit there. And you can see that, you know, it's pretty well laid out. Like, there's a whole lot of parts all over this. You've got the left and right legs that have the greaves included, which is nice. But then all of your very specific fronts and backs, so be very careful of that. Don't have to worry about the pads or the backpacks right there, and you can see the slots or the notches where the little sensors go. And then you can see from the weapons themselves, they're just basically a rail with like a hollow section inside that these are just gonna, they have a little rail themselves that they just go on, right? So it's pretty simple build as far as that goes. And yeah, and then you put the little drum-fed grenade launcher, self-guided bomblet thingies. Say that 10 times fast right on the front here. So I'm sure somebody will come. Oh, let's take a look at how these go together. So that's going to come off the back, and there's a little notch. So it looks like the ammo feeds will line up just fine. I definitely recommend, and I had it around here earlier. Don't know where I put it. Oh, I definitely recommend using the Tamiya Extra Clear Cement or any thin cement in general for stuff like that. So it's just seamless gap fill and you don't have to worry about anything there. Let's take a look at the Brutalis. Where's the Brutalis? Oh, and then the Sergeant too. Or Lieutenant guy. So real quick, here's the Lieutenant. He is 2 sprues as you would expect. With all the weapons on it, and his legs are going to be with the greaves like we showed you right there, so you got to put those on, and you've got a couple of different options here, which is kind of cool to see. You know, sometimes you get these characters and they don't come with heads or different heads. Now you've even got a different front robe, so that's really neat to see. And even the bolt rifle there has the different ammunitions you can put on them. And then this is clearly all a new sprue. Let me double check that in my brain because it would say the copyright. Yeah, because it's got the new armor plates on here. So this is all a new sprues for this kit right here. Even though some of the parts I'm sure are cut and pasted from their program because it looks very similar, but this one on the back is definitely bigger. And that's all I'm noticing. Well, a lot of the new armor plates are new too. And those little notched, I don't see them yet. Oh, here they are, that the weapons go into. These are different than the Redemptor. So it'll be interesting to see how this all goes together. I do remember the shoulder sockets being really tight on the original Redemptor. And here's the feet and arm bits, as well as the AA gun, which goes into there. It doesn't look like that's hinged. So it looks like when you put this together, just wherever you glue the 2 halves to each other, it's just going to go onto this thing and that's it. It's not really going to move up and down, which is a little disappointing because I like to move my weapons and go pew 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 and make machine gun noises, especially when it's so easy. That is all the sprues, so let's get a build in and come on back and show you what we found. So build wise, the Desolators are pretty easy. You can see right here, well, you can't see right here, you can't see the gap where the ammo feeds went together, which is really nice. You can position these little things here, you know, to get the motion, so make sure you use the right one based on, you know, where you want the motion for the figure. Like this guy could be looking that way, but looking this way is perfectly acceptable. And there really isn't a good way to kind of swap out the weapons except for using some blue tack, because the reason this will work pretty well, I think, as you see it stuck on there pretty strongly, is because there's little notches in there, and then the rail system, it's just really going to grab it very well. So I wouldn't even sweat that. Just, you know, check your models when you pick them up off the table, and if you just put a little blue tack in there, I think you'll be just fine if you're really sweating, you know, switching these things out, as far as that goes. But super easy build there. And here's the sergeant. He looks pretty cool. You know, you can see the sizing right there. Like, they definitely size up for the most part, pretty close to the normal intercessors. It's got all the three-dimensional kind of look with the wires and the ammo feed going in right there, and that's pretty cool to see. So we've got that one, and then I wanted to show you on this lieutenant how to magnetize it. And these guys are, and we're not going to actually get into it because we spend a lot of time, and you'll see what I'm talking about here in a second. So the easiest way to magnetize stuff that I found lately is you just take a push pin, you just kind of squeeze it in right here to the center of wherever you're trying to drill out. And then I bought one of these wow sticks off Amazon. These things are pretty awesome. They're geared up. Unfortunately, this is the biggest drill bit on it, so it's not going to work for a magnet. But if you put a pinhole in there, a pilot hole, and then actually guide it, and not be an idiot and trying to do it through the camera. There we go. Sometimes it does get caught, and then you just got to get the gear ratio and just back it out. Once you do something like that and you get that nice clean hole in there, you can come in with your drill pin, your pin vise rather. That's not. And you just grab your pin vise, and instead of just hitting and then getting in there and hand cranking everything, right now you've got a really big hole, and you're only gonna have to maybe do two twists, and I'm done right there. That's the easiest magnetization I've done in quite some time. Now you do want to go deep enough that you can, when you take your stacks of magnets, and these are 1/8 by 1/16 inch, you want to go deep enough so that when you put glue in there, it accounts for the glue. So you don't want to be just quite flush. You want to be a little bit deeper, if you know what I'm saying. And then that way you can back it out to where it's flush and just kind of leave it in there. And there's enough room in there that you can put some glue, and this will definitely hold. Same thing with the arms right here, but these are really kind of already pre-drilled out, some of them, so you might just be able to take your wow stick and then just take your pin vise for a 1/8 inch magnet and just kind of crank away. And it's really that simple. Like, yeah, the wow stick is a little expensive. I mean, it comes with a lot of drill bits, and it comes with a little charging thing and a little case and everything. It's pretty nifty. I mean, yeah, it's $50. But sometimes, you know, you're like, hey, I got $50, I got all the tools, you know, burning a hole in my pocket, I got all the tools I can need. Let me just buy this thing, because instead of sitting there and hand crank it for 5 minutes with this thing, I'm already magnetizing at this point, you know. So I feel like I'm paying for time at that point right there, and I'm okay with it. I just wish that they had a little bit bigger drill bits, but I get it, you know, the degree ratios and things. It would probably have to be a bit bigger of a device in order to do that. Now, let's talk about this difficult build right here. So first off, I didn't glue it all down, because what I like to do is keep all the parts off to try out different upgrades and things that we'll get from different vendors. So I really just kind of make it a little modular. This here, there really isn't a lot of room to magnetize these, and I don't feel like you need to. You can just put a little bit of putty in there, or you could put a metal plate and then put a magnet in here, but I feel like a little bit of putty, because there's those notches right there, right inside there, and this big notch right here, it's gonna hold it pretty well. And the tension between the armor plate right here, not just that armor plate, but also this plate right here, locks it in pretty good. And then you can just switch them out between the two. Here it is right here. And then pew pew pew, you're off pew pew pewing for the pew pew. So I don't feel like that's too big of an ask. Now what, oh, and let me show you this too. So there is new armor plate bits right here. Everything else, as far as I can tell, on these armor plates and this armor plate bit right here, everything else, as far as I can tell, is pretty standard from the Redemptor, just cut and pasted over. Now here's the problem I ran into, and I sliced the crap out of my hand. I might actually need stitches. I may require medical attention, but I wanted to get this patched up and this recorded before I make that decision, because I was cutting towards myself, and what are you not supposed to do? Cut towards yourself. Anyways, so don't be a stupid me again. This right here, this area right here is terrible. It's terrible. It is not designed well. These, you can already tell that space right there, and I'm trying to angle it just right. You can see that space between that knot, where that notch is deeper than this right here. Like, it's literally deeper than this little bit. Like, I don't know why they did that. And it's a little infuriating, because you're supposed to just be able to slot these in like this, and I can already feel it's not going all the way through, and then turn it. You're supposed to be able to turn it and flip it down, and we can't, because it's too big. Like, you can get in there and cut it up, but you would have had to have done it initially. I mean, you could get in there now and do it and just kind of chisel away at it. And that's what I tried to do, and that's how I ended up cutting the crap out of my finger. So I don't 100% recommend that. I would maybe recommend trying to do that before you build it, because this is a separate piece here, but we didn't know that. So the funny thing is that if you take the Redemptor one is actually completely different of a bit, but it's completely designed the same way, which I don't understand at all. So it's also bigger on the side here. You can see where those notches are bigger, longer, those little wings. So this thing actually will fit in here and turn. Well, it did a minute ago. Of course, none of this is glued down, but I got this to work and turn. Maybe it was this side. Yeah. So this works and turns. Not so much for the actual Brutalis claws, which is a little infuriating. And you can drop a magnet in here, and we did actually we didn't do a magnetization video on the Redemptor, which is a little sad. Maybe one day we'll do that. The other thing I wanted to mention is, like, this doesn't, you just glue this wherever you want it. This doesn't move up and down like we noticed in the instructions right there. And this bit is 100% bigger than the one on the Redemptor Dreadnought, like you see there. Now you would think, oh man, that's really unfortunate. That's a really bad, design flaw, and it is. It definitely leaves a lot to be desired. Like, you're gonna have to cut, and you're gonna have to do some shaving to get this to go in to turn, because not only does this one not work, but also the other arm doesn't work. But it gets almost worse, to be quite honest with you. So the way they designed this, you see this little square peg right here? It's supposed to go in this little tiny square. I mean, this is less than, that might be a 1/16 of an inch. I don't even know. That is super small. And they say don't glue any of these parts, which makes absolutely no sense to me personally. I would at least put a little dab of glue in there, and dab it into there, and then just lock it in, right? And then that way, and if you keep working it, if you keep twisting it, you won't let that glue get out on the side and start drying, you'll actually be okay. And that's what I would recommend. But the problem is that I did that, and you can see here it already broke off. It had a super solid bond, and here's why it breaks off. And this might be just a little nitpicky, but because you can glue this arm in whatever place you want and it'll be just fine. But here's the problem is if you don't, and like they tell you don't glue any of this, like obviously you want this to move. And if you take this, and if you do manage to get this locked into the shoulder socket, and then you try to put all your force on this to push it down, what do? You push right here. And when you push right here, you get stress at this joint, and then it's gonna either, you know, pop out or whatever. Also, another thing, this twists. So, and I know all these parts are right because this little armor notch, it says to put it, you know, on there because it obviously flips down. So all of this is right. This twists. So you can actually twist this. This is the bottom, believe it or not. So this is supposed to twist. But the problem is when you start putting torsion on this and you start twisting it, guess what? It automatically wants to pop out. So it doesn't matter if you glue this bit or what. You just need to glue all of this down and not F with it at all. And then you'll probably be fine. But you want to make sure you get the pose because this doesn't, you have to twist this all the way to clear. All the way to clear that to flip this up. So depending on how you want to do it, it's kind of like an infuriating skill game to get this to even to the point where, you know, it might be, if you could get this in the hole, I'm childish, I laugh at stupid shit, then that would be fine, but we're not even there yet. Like, I'm 4 hours into this build and I can't even get it. It's just a very sad design on these arms. Like something is either too fat or too small on this interface and it just doesn't work. And you can start shaving it out. And if you're not careful, you know, you definitely run the risk of cutting the crap out of yourself. And it's just a little, I personally expected better from Games Workshop, to be quite honest with you, because this was a known issue with these. Like I had to shave these on the Redemptor Dreadnought from, you know, 2017. You can see right there. This was a known issue. So for them to just cut and paste all that crap over, and then honestly for the people that got this early to not even say anything about it, I don't really get it either, because, you know, I watch all those videos and I listen to those folks too, just to see, you know, what they notice or what they don't notice, or take zoom in on little interfaces and things that you know, my engineer brain wants to see. But I'm kind of disappointed in some of the content creators that got this early too, that just really may not have said as much as they should have. So that's it. That's all I got to say. I can't really recommend this kit at all. Usually I'm like, GW makes great things and their designs are awesome, and you know, I can't even say that at this point, because up to this point it's great. And I really like this Dreadnought, but once it comes to the arms, it just goes downhill, and it's really unfortunate. I definitely expected better from them. I've spent enough time on it, and I'm really sorry I could not get this to work for you guys, but hopefully this helps y'all build yours and notch that out. Cut those pieces out, dry fit them, and try, you know, to make it so that it will work. And then I definitely recommend maybe just gluing your arms together, just so when you're doing stuff like this and you're twisting and you're doing those things, you're not, and then you have to twist it all the way to get the cap back in there. Hopefully you can get this to this pose you want and be able to lock it into the shoulder, to kind of play with your toys here. And I'm sure you could get a really nice dope looking pose here and not have to make all the servo noises and things. But I like doing that with my toys when I'm playing. So it's just a little unfortunate for me. So once you get those locked in there, I think it'll probably be fine. Oh, I guess I should mention too, I'm not sure these claws are right either. They, in the instructions, they mentioned that they were all the same claw numbers. Where are they? So here they're all C109, like all of them, C109 and C110. Let me tell you what, these are not the same bits. And once you cut them out, like this one's slanted more, this one's a heavy slant, these two are actually the same. So I feel like there was a bit of a mistake there, and I'm not sure if this one's supposed to go down here. I interchanged them before I glued. I didn't really see a big difference, unfortunately. Maybe this big outer one's supposed to go on the thumb, which would make more sense, like he's grasping stuff. But either way, I was already kind of on tilt because of the whole shoulder issue, and I maybe let that kind of blind my my assembly there. But the directions are definitely wrong. So dry fit and get maybe put this big one here that kicks out the most on the thumb socket, or I guess that is the thumb socket. So man, gosh, I don't even know anymore, like what the intention was. I guess you can match it up with the pictures that they have for their builds, but it's really hard to tell without getting a good angle on it. Like I'm looking at the pictures here, and you can't even really see a good angle. Like those all look like they're literally the same bit. So I'm not sure if they were the same. Yeah, because look at this. These literally all look at like they're at the same exact angle. So I'm not sure if at the computer design they were, and then something happened. I mean, these all look the same, but these are not the same bits. These are 100% not the same bits, and you'll see it when you lay them all out. So I don't know. Just a really infuriating build for something that has the potential to be so cool and so much fun on the tabletop, and just rumbling, stumbling, bumbling, ripping things apart. So I'm really dissatisfied with this Dreadnought, and also dissatisfied with the lack of information about it, about the awareness, because this has some severe issues in my opinion. But let me know how, if you get yours built, let me know what you find out, because I'm just going to use this guy for a crash test dummy and trying different 3D prints and resin upgrade kits on at this point, and we'll make him look dope, but he's not going to be all that he could be. That's for sure. So overall, in theory, there's some savings to be had, and there's some cool new models in here that people have said different things about. It did occur to me that this Dreadnought, those arm sockets, perhaps there was just a bad fill in the mold. But if I got one sprue that's a bad fill, it could be a lot of them out there too. Like it's really hard to say at this point. I just don't know. And I'm just a little disappointed. So that's it for this one. Hopefully you could take something away from this disjointed review of the new Strike Force and build, or attempt to build a new Strike Force Agastus box from Games Workshop. Even these, you can tell they're not. Man, it's so frustrating too. That looks like a little stubby one, and these are longer. I don't know. Very frustrating, very frustrating. So let me know in the comments how yours builds, and I guess we'll just see if maybe I'm a big dumb, or there's a problem with the sprue in the sizing. If you liked that video feature, consider supporting us over at Patron.com and get back in the mail each month a miniature crate full of some of the stuff we review here, as well as some of the top 3D artist designs out there too, to help support what they're doing. Plus discount coupon codes from some of those same manufacturers. They're yours to keep, whether you cancel or stay on. It's totally up to you. Obviously, we want to keep you as happy as possible. So check it out over at patreon.com/spikybits.